And me, Peter Smith.
How are you all? Hoping that you're enjoying the sun as much as we are, because even though you might be coming to this at December, at the moment it is June and it is absolutely boiling.
And for people of a certain age like ourselves, 27,
28.
you'll be able to understand when we say that this is the weather that you used to get in the 70s and 80s.
It is.
So it looks like it's actually done that full circle that we always talk about, that myth that we always say, that fable, that story that people think is a lie when we say the 80s and the 70s had the weather like this every summer.
It did. And actually, this is the only time where, in spite of the fact that I am somebody who cares about our environment, if this is the impact of global warming and it can just stay at this level so that we get sun from, May, June till September, then I'm okay with this level.
Yeah.
Let's stop here because I don't want it to get any hotter and I don't want it to get any wetter. Yeah. But from a Mancunian's perspective, this is bang on.
Yeah. So what am I then if you're a Mancunian?
Saltburnian.
Well, no, because I'm half now, aren't I?
Saltcunian.
Smogcunian. Smoggy from Middlesbrough. Even though you're half from Saltburn, we're a Smogcunian.
Smogcunian.
Yeah.
There again.
Seagullcunian. Seacunian.
What have you not to?
Me? I've been gardening. I'm also preparing for the drought that's for the foreseeable drought that's coming.
Is this the thing, though, that we've reached middle age because at the end of the day, you're really exciting by gardening products and I like anything that makes my house smell nice?
I've planted some vegetables with my parents.
Do you remember those days where you used to get up on a Thursday and you'd be like, right, it's basically the weekend now. Yeah. And then you'd get back from work and then you'd be at the pub and then you literally wouldn't stop. You'd crawl into work on a Friday and be like, all right. And then you'd go through the whole weekend awake and then you get to Monday morning and just walk in stinking, fags and booze. Yeah. And you'd just be like, get through Monday. I remember I ate a lot of Jammy Dodgers and that was kind of your whole thing, just survive Monday and then you'd be fine. Then Thursday you'd be like bang on, and it's that's when you were working. Before that it was every night.
And the problem with me was that partying became my job, so I was a professional partier. So what happens is you start partying on a Thursday and then you party through till Wednesday and then you sort of realise that that's a weekend tomorrow and you're back on it again.
You once fell out with your wife when you were married because you went to the shop.
Before you, not you, obviously.
Yeah, not this wife, another wife. We're interchangeable. But you went to the shop and didn't come back because you went and got a sausage roll.
Right, okay. So there was, it was Friday evening. We'd been out, the usual parties, everybody, we'd gone back to go back. And I just still felt like going out still. So it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'm going to the shop for a sausage roll or whatever I was going to do. I walked out and saw a few friends walking past. They were going down the back end of a beach party that was down there. So I went down there and did that. And I didn't go on for a few days. In hindsight, pretty.
What were the consequences though when you returned home?
Yeah, quite bad really. Yeah, it's like screaming and
throwing records out of the window.
Yeah, I've had that before. Yeah, I've had various sort of I think I should have been single, really. I never did anything untoward, sleep with anybody else. Because I'm loyal, me. I'm one of those loyal fellas. But
the lull of a sausage roll in a party is too much for you to bear.
I think I was into DJing and sort of vinyl and music and partying came first. And I think I shouldn't have really been in a relationship with anybody except for myself.
I can genuinely remember we've had this conversation before. I don't know whether we've had it on the podcast, but I, at every single party, would just end up inevitably in the person who owned the house's bed.
Asleep.
I would just find the bed. I'd be checking it out about 2 o'clock and be thinking, right, everybody's straggling now. And I'd think I need to get some shut eye. And I would just go up and I would just lie on the bed and just be several of us all lay on the bed spooning each other, strangers. Yeah. It didn't matter.
See, I was the person that would be like running in going, no one's going to sleep.
Yeah.
No one's going to sleep. Let's get more down and let's go and get this. And then it'll be like 5 o'clock in the morning. It's like, when's the shop open? Bottle of vodka time. And I would go out and get a bottle of vodkas and then we'd play like, vodka in the eye.
I can remember.
It's like, my God.
I can remember waking up one day in where is it? It wasn't Huddersfield. It was Brighouse, up Huddersfield Way. And we'd like got in a van, all of us. There was like a big group of us and we'd all go in like different vans. We were always vans. And we turned up at this place in Brighouse. We had this party. It was a really good party. It was hilarious. The stuff that was going on was funny. And I woke up about like 10 o'clock in the morning and me and my mate at the time, Penny, we were like, oh, I'm really hungry. There was nothing in the house. It was one of those typical places where all they did was party and very few people ever felt that they were hungry. But basically, I remember saying, like, come on, let's get out. Let's go for a wander and we'll go and find somewhere to get an egg butty because I wanted an egg butty. And we wandered around for about an hour and a half before realising it was a Sunday in Brighouse. There wasn't really a city centre and it was a completely fruitless exercise.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, there was memories of kind of doing that. And another time I can remember like going to Huddersfield. This was a Huddersfield party. We went to this party, big warehouse rave, and got back in the van and they had to drop me off at Wickes Building Supplies where I used to work.
Brilliant.
And I had like a full-on red jumpsuit. People thought I was a mechanic in it. It was one of those kind of outfits. And I kind of had to like put it on in the van and like fall out of the van and like go to work.
Gosh.
You just look back at times like that. How mad though that I have mates that went to a party, we partied all night, and then they drove me to work.
Yeah, the thing is, though, talking about vans, it was everything like the old school raves, the warehouse parties and the
Oh,
raves.
it's brilliant.
Everybody used to, it would be like someone would have a van.
Yeah.
So everybody would just pile in the van, and it was like, you just rock up and everybody would party in the van and then you get out the van, you go on, and then just like end up somewhere else, or you didn't used to have like directions, or, it was just like in a warehouse in the middle of
You used to get a radio signal. You used to have to find a radio signal and it would come across the radio. We used to have to meet at Birch Services, get the signal if you were luckier, try and follow somebody who looked like they actually knew where they were going.
pirate
And you
radio.
get there
Yeah.
and you'd like hear it in the distance.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see lights in the distance as well because people would have proper laser effects and stuff like that.
It's just, I read today, we've just missed a rave.
Have
just up
we?
the road from us.
No.
Up on Walcombe, in between Holcombe Hill and where we're from, and over the quarry, and not the quarry, but Holcombe Hill and somewhere up there.
Why?
And massive rave.
How
Everybody
did
can hear
that
it over Ramsbottom.
happen?
It's still going on now, apparently.
Well, why haven't we been able to
I
go
don't
to
know,
that?
loads of dreads and that up there, all just having it.
Oh, that'd be so much fun.
Loads of people in Ramsbottom
How
saying,
have
what's
they
all that
done
music,
that?
all the drums, I can hear all the drums. And apparently there's a massive sound system up there and
And
everyone's
is
just
it
having it.
not legal?
Totally legal.
But leaving it?
Absolutely
That's
illegal.
so
right,
cute.
yeah.
That's so fun. I can remember when I went to the first rave
got a
I
big
ever
rig
went
up there,
to. I was like probably about 16, 17. And my friend Janie was like, there's a warehouse rave on, let's go. And it was back in the day where it really was a warehouse rave, as in an old empty warehouse, filthy, people had graffitied all over it. Somebody had set up a sound system and then boom, you're there. And we got there and I was so naive at that time. And I was like, man, this is the friendliest place I've ever been. Like people were coming up to me, like dancing with me and they were giving me a hug. And I was just like, wow, I love raves. And only like a year or so later, and it really genuinely, in spite of the fact I was in that scene, I didn't realise that ecstasy existed. It wasn't in my mindset. I just kind of went partied with my friends. When I started driving, I drove everywhere.
Yeah.
So when I started to drive, I became the person who took them. And I knew there were drugs around, but E wasn't really something that had come into my frame of reference. And it was so funny looking back because I genuinely thought, oh my goodness, what an amazing eclectic group of individuals, all with one soul, all dancing together. And now I look back and I can see it for what it was. It was amazing, but it was definitely induced by all of that stuff that I didn't have any idea of at the time.
It was a big movement. It's changed a little bit now. People are it's quite dangerous. Some of the stuff that's in the streets at the moment, as we've seen in the news.
Terrifying.
Lately.
As we talked about last year, like regulate the drugs, absolutely.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Hasn't it?
Something's got to happen.
Yeah.
Or just testing. Something which can be safe, to make the kids safe these days. Because it's not going anywhere.
I went and did True Geordie's podcast this week.
You did?
I love him.
Yeah.
I've got a proper connection with that boy.
Yeah.
He's absolutely adorable. If none of the people probably listening to this probably know a lot about True Geordie because he's kind of a younger market. Obviously, you're all like 27. But if you're listening to this and you haven't found True Geordie, he's hilarious.
He is.
But also, oh my God, he's such a gorgeous human being. You know, when you just meet somebody, I said to you, I came home and I just said I felt really warm. He's one of those men that just makes me feel like really safe, and he's huge and tall and kind of gives me proper bear hugs. And you know, when you just feel like you've known somebody in a different lifetime.
It happens, doesn't it?
And it's really funny because I've worked with a few YouTubers and I've worked with mainstream. And the truth is that when I'm with YouTubers, I always like feel this real sense of camaraderie because it's like they're real people.
Yeah,
they're not
it's a little bit different to the
trying to portray anything. They're just being themselves. And it's like so lovely.
Yeah, and I can say what they want to see. And
Yeah.
you know, it's
But that's the thing for me, though. It's a little bit weird because I want to say things, but my profile in the press means that I'm always walking quite a fine line because I don't want to say things that could encourage young people to go down a path they shouldn't go down, and I don't want to offend people to the degree that I could offend them if I said certain things about my political views, for example. But one of the things that came up, and it was a really difficult subject matter to explore, and something that I kind of found myself not quite as eloquent with, because I know that the way I say it could be problematic. And we were talking about Tommy Robinson.
Right, yeah.
So he asked me whether I felt that Tommy Robinson was a racist. And if you're not from the UK, because we know we've got some lovely visitors to this podcast from completely different areas of the world, probably much sunnier.
I've seen sort of Australia, I know Australia, New
got
Zealand.
America.
I saw some people asking, they don't really get that much airtime with him over there.
Yeah.
They don't really sort of push his rhetoric or anything over there because, you know, it's more UK based.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard of Tommy Robinson, he's basically a guy who sets himself up as somebody who is not supportive, apparently, of the far right, although he did used to lead one of those parties. And essentially, he sits there and says that Islamic people are, to some degree, a problem, right? And he does that in a very, very eloquent and almost sensical way that could make somebody who was not necessarily that informed or educated almost believe what he says is true. And what he does really very, 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 very cleverly is he says the words, "I'm not a racist." Now, I was asked, is he a racist? And the truth is, no, he's not a racist, because by the definition of racism, it has to be a race, and Islam is not a race. It is a religious rhetoric, it's a religious belief system. So you can't be a racist. So no, I do not believe that in his rhetoric, in the narrative he talks about, that he is a racist, because you can't pinpoint that. He's never said anything racist. He said things about Islam. However, do I believe that somebody who can be so negative about Islam is then perfectly okay with individuals who identify as Islamic, peace-loving individuals, 1.2 billion Muslims in the world? We would have a massive problem if they wanted to cause trouble for us, right? Yeah. So we're talking about a tiny minority. My worry with him is that he's very convincing, he's very pernicious, he's very insidious, he's very intelligent, and he's a great orator.
Well, it's not his real name, is it, Tommy Robinson?
No.
He's got like a double-barrel name.
So if you think about those traits, that's Hitler.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what he did. And all people need to do is watch World War II in colour on Netflix, watch how he does it and what he does it, and even like any of the documentaries on Hitler to see how he managed to manipulate and to mould people and to make people believe and try and understand the way he is. You know, when he got locked up, he wrote Mein Kampf. You know, it's like my struggle. You know what I mean? That's what it means. And it's like, and then he gets people on side. And he sort of blags them in a way into thinking the way that he thinks. Yeah. And he's very, very forthright or was very forthright and
verbally
animated.
Astute, yeah.
You know, and he gets the people around him as well. The people who are a little bit more easily led to understand and believe him, and then they do his sort of dirty work. Yeah.
Tommy Robinson is incredibly charismatic.
Well, that's Hitler.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So you look at Tommy Robinson, and that's what I see.
Yeah.
I see somebody who has the potential to lead but maybe not lead in the direction that the country needs.
Yes.
And it's that feeling when I'm talking about it that I do not want to come across as pro any terrorist, right? At the end of the day, I have issues with certain areas of Islam, like I do with all religions.
Absolutely.
I believe that the fact you can't change it, you
I find
can't make it modern.
Yeah, it's control. That's
It's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about people like Dawkins, who is an absolute atheist, he says the only religion that you can argue is not dangerous is the C of E. It's the Christian C of E because it's progressive, it changes, it accepts the fact that these days homosexuals don't deserve to burn in hell. It says, you know what, it was of a time, the Bible, but you cannot be purist. And I think that's what makes me feel that that's the safest religion, because I think all religions are destructive to some degree. I don't think that people with faith in that religion are destructive. I just think that because of the clear division it makes, it creates a boundary and a barrier. And I don't think you need that for faith. I think that faith should just be a pure relationship with what you consider your God, whatever that is, whether that's a deity and being, or whether it's nature, whether it's Mother Earth, whether it's none of those things, whether it's humanism. It doesn't matter. That's yours. The fact that you have to kind of create this indoctrinated perspective of what is right and wrong, or who is right and wrong, that's concerning. So when he talks about the fact that there are people in the UK who want us dead, there are Muslim people in the UK who are disgusted by us. They find our way of life disgusting. They find me disgusting. I'm a woman of shame. Do I think there's any place for that in this country? Absolutely not. The same as if I was sitting with a guy who is a massive racist, who's white, do I think there's any place for this in this country? Absolutely not. So it comes down to the way that people treat one another. Like, I don't feel that anybody should live in the UK unless they feel connected and committed to the British experience. That doesn't mean you can't wear different clothes. It doesn't mean you can't have different feelings. Just that we connect with each other as human beings. We see that this is how we make a community work. That's how assimilation works.
Yeah, that's similar. Yeah, you make a community work, and everybody who's part of that community can have their own sub communities.
But like each other, respect each other.
Yeah.
But they're a minority, and don't get me wrong. You know, you look at Tower Hamlets, you look at Luton, you look at Bradford, you look at Oldham. There are ghettos. There are ghettos, right? We need to do something about that, and that comes to collaborate with communities. But you need to have openness. So what he does, he plays on those examples, right? He plays on those examples, because if you look at those examples in Bradford, 80% in certain areas which are completely Muslim, no British TV, women don't wear anything that's Western, they don't even have any food that's particularly Western, right?
Yeah.
That is completely separate, and that makes people go, well, they don't want to live our life, right? And that's where the big Tommy Robinson rhetoric comes in.
Yeah.
Because what he's saying is they don't just despise us, they refuse to have anything to do with us. However, we all miss out the fact that why do people choose to live in scenarios where they're with their own community? Firstly, because they recognise similarities. Secondly, they feel safe. Most importantly, because they feel accepted.
Yeah.
Now, Tommy Robinson completely exaggerates the already problematic perspectives of right-wing people, who then reinforce the attitudes of strict Muslims, which are, we can never connect. You know?
Yeah.
And that's a little bit like the Hasidic Jews in the UK. You have a completely separate community.
Yeah.
And we almost need to start saying to ourselves, if there is one thing that religion of any type should do, it should unite us all.
Yeah.
How can it divide us like this?
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I've struggled with what's true and what's not true, and what's, you know, how you feel about things, you know, the whole Brexit thing. You know, you sort of question things, you know. But you just hit the nail on the head there. What you've got to do is just try and figure out how we all live together as a community, you know, whatever you're, you know, into. You see what Tom Robinson is, the people that are surrounding him, you know, all the right wings, the Nazis, the Nazi salutes. I mean, these people who are doing the Nazi salutes, and, you know, they have no idea what the Nazi rhetoric is. They have no idea what they're actually doing there.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
It's like, come on. You know, if you're going to do stuff like that, at least read into it and have a choice on whether you're doing it, or, you know, and then you're going to be shunted anyway, because it's absolutely ridiculous what you're doing. The death, the destruction, the awful things that these people did.
Anti-Semitism, the anti-traveller, the anti-disabled.
Yeah, it's not just...
No,
these
the
people
all the flipping Polish people who were murdered horribly.
There's a lot of anger, and it's been vented in ways...
the wrong direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in a direction that incites more hatred on both sides.
Yeah.
So that's the irony.
Because you see in the sort of, some of the Muslim population and young Muslim men that wouldn't have even thought about going down that road of like hate against sort of... Catholics, Christians, or Jewish people, seeing the likes of Tommy Robinson's, not just Tommy Robinson, but the people who are even worse than him, the people that don't care what they say on camera, don't care what they do to people. And it is going to make people hate them.
The thing is with Tommy Robinson, dead genuinely, I think that Tommy Robinson doesn't believe he's racist, right? I really don't believe he thinks that. I don't think he does. I think what he feels is that he stands for British values, right? And he stands for girls and boys who've been sexually exploited by Pakistani Asian males, which is statistically true. But that's a profile crime. We can profile paedophiles and mostly white men. You can always profile. The truth is that what he sees is a particular, as far as he's concerned, culture that exploits the culture that they're meant to be respecting, and it makes him angry. But he can't see that if you have those views, you cannot help but group people together with those perspectives. That's like saying that every Pakistani Asian man wishes to exploit 12-year-old girls. By a far majority, that's not going to be the case. It's the opposite, same as most white men are not paedophiles. It's as simple as that. And what really worries me is the way that what they did, and I find this really, really strange, the biggest PR campaign he could have dreamt of was to get arrested outside that court. The biggest PR campaign. And I sat there and I thought, you know what? They must have known. Somebody knew that was going to happen. Somebody knew that Tommy Robinson was going to get arrested outside that court, and it was all caught on live and cameras, and bang, where is he? And all the national press. And again, sounds like I'm ranting about Tommy Robinson. I'm actually not. I don't believe that he feels he's a racist or is trying to be racist. I believe he thinks he's a good man. I believe he thinks he's telling the truth. But from my perspective, I can see how warped it is. And like you said, how that kind of rhetoric has led to mass genocide all over the world.
I mean, I wish... I don't know. We don't have the answers, do we? And I don't know what my opinion is on what he could actually do. I mean, putting his energy into something just a little bit different. There's got to be another angle for him to vent his frustrations. And I know politics is a whole new. But I mean, to get involved in that sort of carry on. I mean, this isn't a political podcast in any way whatsoever, and politics is a whole different ball game of a discussion. But would he be beneficial for him to go down that route instead of, but not on a sort of right wing sort of feel to it? There must be some way for him to try and, would he integrate in the communities together? Would that be his angle? Would it be better? Because if he's not a racist, I know he's angry, but would it be to have them working with him? Because he goes on about, I've got black friends, I've got Muslim friends, people who are involved.
I'm sure he
has. But he's got these right wings,
but
and
then as well,
Nazis all attached to him, and the BNP and the old BNP. They're saying they're not there anymore, but they are. Of course, they are. It's.
I just think that you can identify that things are wrong, but you can do it in compassionate and kind ways where it can make people feel open. Whereas what happens these days is it's you are wrong and this is why, and it's a monologue of reasoning as to why, and it can almost like in a cult kind way make somebody go, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And I've got a girl that I used to work with. She was one of my girls, and she's got it all over her Facebook. And she may as well have a sign saying, Muslims are taking over the UK, Muslims are scum, Muslims... And it's like, I sit there and I think, this is a girl who was absolutely adored by me. She's gorgeous and a lovely girl, right? But she comes from an estate where that rhetoric is very prevalent. And it's so powerful. And the thing is, we're trying to move into a future where, of course, there's friction, right? Of course, right now, are we doing a good job as a simulation? No, we know that, right? But that's always been the way. There's a period of time where it happens and then it grows and changes and evolves. And I'm like, the damage that we're doing now is really going to set us instead for a positive or negative future. So we have to minimise the damage. And he needs to kind of recognise that instead of having that fraught, this is the way it should be, this is who we are, this is what we stand for, this is what our kids need protecting from. He needs to kind of step back and say, how can I meet the community that in this moment finds me reprehensible and fearful, and meet them in a way where I can understand and they can understand, so somehow we can bring that together. And it's ridiculous because I can't be doing with Donald Trump. But you look at Donald Trump in politics at the moment, and this guy is like trying to bring peace with Korea.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there and thinking...
Well, now Putin's as well said
Putin,
afterwards, he said, once that's done, I'm open to coming and meeting with these guys now as well, you know.
And you're kind of thinking to yourself, it's so ironic. I feel like we're at this bizarre moment in time where like somebody like Donald Trump that is completely odd can somehow make the world change in a positive way. It's like nothing makes sense to me at the moment.
I mean, people are saying it's on track if he does it. You know, the Nobel Peace Prize and stuff.
But do you ever feel like that? Just like nothing makes sense?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, has he got a plan?
Or
is he just actually... I don't know.
I know.
It's like...
what is happening at this moment in time? It's like, I'm just confused.
But even like the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, he's just suddenly gone, yeah, you know what? As you know, I've just had this epiphany. I've woken up last night, I had a dream last night, and yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I want McDonald's now. I want McDonald's in the country. I want you all to come and visit it. Imagine, the country is apparently beautiful. You know, imagine if it opens its borders for people to go and visit. The tourism, it's a whole different. It's a bit like going into a different world. The people living there won't be under oppression anymore. Because there's people terrified. You know, it'd be, let's just fingers crossed that the monstrosity of a man, Donald Trump, could actually do something for good.
I know.
And
he is kind of that narcissistic where he's probably sitting in his office
just
thinking,
sitting there going,
I'm going to become the biggest peacemaker in the whole universe. They're thinking,
You know what?
they're thinking I'm going to fail. I'm going to make sure that my bloody face is carved into one of those mountains.
I'm not a massive fan of Trump. I don't really know much about him that much. I know he's a bit of a bell end, but you know what? If he does it, I can't knock it.
No.
If he brings peace to there, and then with Russia,
Pity about all the global warming
Russia's
and
got
the
to be a
gun
big
crime,
one. I mean,
though.
I've
Can
got a lot
we
of
just
issues
say,
with
like, he's still championing guns and he's still championing the fact that he doesn't believe that global warming is happening. Yeah. Let me tell you, sat in my kitchen now, global warming is here. Yeah. It's right here. We've been living a veritable summer for the past 3 weeks.
On our round Earth, may I add, not flat.
Yeah, flat earthers, God then. I mean, that is a whole area, isn't it, of like...
If you can hear the siren in the background, we're not in the Bronx. In the 1990s film, New Jack City. No, Boys in the Hood is in LA, in Compton.
Oh, you're in Compton, sorry.
I'm in New Jack City with Ice-T at the moment, in my head.
Isn't it funny, though, that flat earth stuff?
Yeah, flat earth. Yeah. Our friend, Mr. C, Richard West from The Shaman,
He's a good. He's a good. He's a good. He's a good.
You know, it's also there. Our friend, Mr. C. Yeah, great man. He tortures them.
He does.
He just can't get his head around
people, though. What is it about people?
There was a post on one of their things on Facebook, and it was like, yes, there is flat earthers like ourselves all around the globe. Oh gosh.
The thing is, though, like, you can see it from space. Yeah. You can see it. It's not like every single... Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, the whole world. Yeah. Hey, Russia's really going to kind of go with the UK, like Donald on the phone. Let's just pretend. Let's send some more of those weird shots. It's like, come on. Yeah. Where is the end of it?
Well, it's like Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett used to say that...
Where is the end of it? I just want to know.
I have no idea.
But you can't say... The Earth is flat.
Oh, it's like that Australian thing we saw with that guy who talks about the ship in the front. So I'll put the link on. As again, we're going to put a link down there.
It's a brilliant. Do take some time to listen to this link because it's absolutely hilarious.
It's about a guy who's designed a ship and the front fell off, but he tows the ship outside the atmosphere.
Yeah, outside the environment.
Outside the environment.
Well, it's outside the environment.
Well, where's that? Well, it's outside the environment.
No, it's not in the environment. It's been towed outside of the environment where there's just birds and fish and 20,000 litres of crude oil. That's what
you just snuck in a goddamn...
He's Australian.
He just snuck it in, though.
He was Australian.
Can't do an Australian one. I always go Cockney.
So, the point is... Where is it? The end. Surely, if you're going to have a debate about having a flat
well, let's make a
Earth,
decision. If there's going to be an end to it, it's definitely got to be Tasmania.
Why would it be off the coast of Australia?
Because that's the end.
Like, it's not.
It'd fall off.
But
But if you do, what's underneath?
That's what I mean.
Is it just like loads of roots?
Like, what is it? Like, that's what I mean. How thick is it? How thick's the earth?
So if you go under the water and you go down and you get to the seabed,
You just like fall
so
off.
if you
Fall
drill through,
Fall
does
out.
it just fall out the
Fall
end?
out.
Like, do you fall out
It's
and
a
then
dark
you're like,
matter.
oh,
Forever.
like, yeah.
It's falling forever in nothing.
Because that'd mean then that would it be tipping around? Would we be all like?
No, I think they just think it's flat.
When it just floats about in the air.
It's just bizarre.
Doesn't make sense.
The thing is that some of these people are like quite intelligent people.
Well, it's the horizon. It's like if there was a horizon, then what?
It's so freaky. I love belief systems. They're hilarious, aren't they? Because like belief systems are things that you think you've thought of, but that none of you have ever thought of because somebody else thought of them. And then somehow along the line, you have picked up some ideas. Even when it comes down to like Bill Gates, who thought of what he did and now look at us, that was still based on the information and processing and abilities of prior men who had done that to get it to that stage. So he takes it one step further. And it's the same with like opinions. You hear an opinion, you add a little bit of an opinion above it, and then you believe the opinion. And until somebody else tells you something that makes you go, yeah, my opinion's really shit now, actually.
Yeah.
That's a really stupid opinion.
Oh, the amount of opinions I've had throughout my life and then they've changed. Most of them probably changed when I met you. Hello, my name's Emma Kenny and I'm the voice of reason, Peter. I'm the voice of reason.
I am the voice of reason.
She is the voice of reason.
That's why people say I talk common sense, as we all know.
You do? That's
I was
the
having
thing.
this conversation earlier on a serious note. I was having a conversation earlier on with the radio station. They were asking me about my viewpoint on this kid who's got addicted to Fortnite, basically a 9-year-old kid. For any of you who don't have kids at home playing computer games, this will be so irrelevant to you. But listen, the world is slowly being taken over by a game called Fortnite. Every child under the age of 18 is on it all the time with their mates. And we have to kind of let our kids be on it. But we also do a lot of stuff like, so for example, not to throw in here a little bit about our parenting skills and expertise. Not saying that we're professionals in this area, but our kids are brilliant. But we do Tabatas every day, don't we? We have a gym in the garage, which sounds very, very posh, doesn't it? But it is actually just a garage with some stuff in it.
Yeah, but decent stuff. I made it. I put it together.
It's
I've been
nice.
working on it. It's a good
It's
gym.
good. It's a good gym.
Yeah,
it's a double garage, so we've got half of it's a gym.
You know, we've got Olympic free weights and stuff that I, saved up and bought. So it's not like,
Look at those muscles. Look at those muscles. Look at those muscles on both of us. Look at us. Oh, you can't see it if you're on your podcast.
You can't see mine because...
So we are very, very proactive with our kids regarding activity. They come into the garage, they do like up to an hour at times, Tabatas, which are bloody hard work.
Yeah.
Look up Tabata if you don't believe us. And we do that all the time. But the rest of the time, it's homework or Fortnite.
Yeah.
And then coming down, eating a meal with us, chilling out for a bit, then Fortnite.
Yeah. 2 hours a day down the mine.
Obviously, 2 hours. Yeah, definitely.
That's from 3 till 5 in the morning.
Absolutely. But then... they were talking to me about this kid who basically is 9 years old. She's the first person on the NHS to be treated for Fortnite addiction.
She weed herself, didn't she?
Yeah, but we're like, come on. This is not a Fortnite addiction. This is a developmentally challenged child who has been allowed to build such a time frame that she has become immersed in the world of Fortnite.
Yeah, and 9 years old as well. It's,
what are you doing? That's parenting.
Yeah, it's parenting issue, that. I know.
It's ridiculous. And you're kind of sitting there and I said
walked in and there was a urine-stained cushion she was sat on. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, but that's like, shouldn't you be doing something about...
the fact that she shouldn't have been sat there
why
all
are you not
night
speaking with your
doing that?
children? Like, why are you not having your children off the
Yeah,
computer?
I judge
speaking
you.
to them?
I judge you, woman. I judge you, mother.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And I'm not a
think I
judgy
have to.
person, but I
Yeah,
judge you, mother.
I think I have to judge you.
Your problem.
Yeah.
Get your arse into gear. Start looking after your kids properly. That's the fact.
I'm almost Judge Judy. That's how much I'm
I
judging
know, but
her.
it just absolutely drives me mad. And so they were saying, like, do you think it could be addicted? It's like, listen, an addict will find a way to be addicted. Somebody who's looking for something, craving something, needing something, they'll find it. Some find religion, which isn't too destructive, unless you end up blowing yourself up,
Well,
for
I know
example.
people that have been addicts, and like to heroin and stuff, and they actually have said, they have an addictive personality.
It's actually not real an addictive personality.
But
I know what you're saying. I'm not going to take that away from you.
They'll stop doing heroin, and then they will start drinking.
Yeah, so
and
that's
there will
the term.
Yeah, and then they'll start, and then I know the guys that have done that, and then got really into sort of like sociable side of drugs, stopped the drinking, and really got heavily into that. Not addicted, but the addicted, wanting to do it all the time. And then I've seen the guys, and then all of a sudden get fully into fitness. They've been heroin addicts, and they are massively into it, or massively into like sort of cars, and become addicted. This is not addiction, but it's like
it's like a need.
It's like a similar thing to
compulsion.
like the religion thing we were talking earlier about, the fundamentalists, the people that get because we've been to church before, and we've seen.
Yeah,
individuals.
We're cool with the big Geordie. 5 years to
We've
get our
seen
kids into
individuals,
the 5 years to get into the church school.
You get them though that get, it's like when you get into something, your hobby, but you get really into it.
Yeah.
And I mean severely
Almost like a bit
into
obsessed.
it. Yeah,
like you with
obsessive,
music.
Yeah. People go to church and get really into it.
Yeah.
It's like, music. I've actually gone through life getting into lots of things. I got into
But you're like a
Garfield,
positive.
the car.
You're like
I was right into that. Michael Jackson. I was fully into Michael Jackson. I immersed myself into Michael Jackson. I had posters, all the way through. In the background was Star Wars. I was listening to that. When the Goonies came out, I watched the Goonies. Fuck me, for about 3 years, I thought I was a Goonie. I was in 4th year junior.
I can so remember that kind of feeling when you play games. You think, what character am I going to be today?
Breakdance. I was always a breakdancer. Went to the Pictures, the Odeon in Middlesbrough, watched breakdance. I went back and watched Boogaloo. I got breakdance to Electric Boogaloo. But I tell you what, as soon as it had finished, we were out at the front and we were popping. We thought we were in the bloody America. It was brilliant. But I immersed myself in that. I was one of those kids that did everything, and but I was into it massively.
But you had a boundary.
Yes,
that's the difference. It's like I gave the example to that woman before. I was like, look, you can put 100 people in a room with loads of heroin, and only a couple of them might take it. One might say, oh, it's all right, I don't want to leave, don't want to touch it again. Two might say, I'm completely addicted, right? One might get off it quite quickly because they realise it's destructive, and one, it absolutely ruins their life, right? It's about what is missing. What is fundamentally missing in your life? What is fundamentally missing in your being that needs to be addressed? Find that out. That means that you won't need to be an addict. Again, I have got one of those compulsive, impulsive personalities, Like, I have a stamina that I think Russian shot putters would be jealous of. I genuinely think that, and you know that about me. I've got an incredible tolerance. But tolerance, full stop.
Weightlifting man, not just a man, because that's quite sort of sex, but you lift like you've got the strength of a bear.
But the tolerance level for me is big.
Yeah.
So I'm somebody who in the past, like if I had the option to become what we consider addicted, it would have happened. What I realise is that all the things I do are internalised, and I process things and figure things out and wonder why. So like a period of time when Pam was really, really, really sick, I drank vodka all the time, obviously in moderation, obviously not when I was driving. But if I came home after being with her and she'd been so sick and so ill and she was dying and I was my best mate, I would just like swig a load of vodka and go to sleep. And it was only when I realised that pattern isn't fundamentally a way of coping with my grief that I was like, right, time to let go of that, time to say goodbye to that. That's so fundamentally I can't therefore be in a position where something's missing in me. I was reacting to that time frame, but I certainly didn't continue reacting to that time frame. And I can have a drink without thinking I've got to go and have another drink and another drink and another drink and another drink. That isn't to say that there aren't days where I'll want a drink and I'll have more than I usually do, but it's rare and it's never an actual compulsion anymore. It's not to avoid anything. It might just be that we're having a barbecue and I have one too many G&Ts or whatever. But it's that sense genuinely of knowing that boundary. And that's the thing with our kids. And the difference between our kids and that kid, they have a completely varied lifestyle. They have a diverse experience. They're like connected to us. We have lots of fun. We have such a blast, don't we?
Oh, we do. Yeah. I mean, the kids have just like...
I wish I could have more kids.
I know.
It's so hard. Honestly, if you're listening to this and you don't know a lot about me, because I don't know how it works with podcasts, you might just find this one. But if you've listened to previous ones, you'll know that one of my struggles has been infertility. And, amen to the fact that I've got 2 boys that are absolutely amazing. But unfortunately, me and Pete haven't been able to have our own children. We've had several miscarriages. But the consequence of that is that we're still, even though I'm getting on a little bit, still always hoping that this month will be the month where we find out that actually that we've managed it. Because I don't have an ability to ovulate very effectively. So it's really, really difficult. And at my age, actually, it's really rare to get pregnant anyway. So the odds are against us. But it's due to the fact that I've just had such a blast being a mum. Like, it's just been such a blast. It's like a hilarious comedy living in my house, isn't it?
It is.
I don't know what people talk about when they talk about like anxiety and stress and worrying about the future for the kids. I'm just like, man, I've got the future penned out, you know? If they just want to stay at home forever, I'll feed them and I'll clothe them and I'll love them and I'll look after them and I'll make them feel safe, right? There's no need for me to stress because I am always going to be here. And actually, even when they were 40, I would think it was brilliant if they were still chilling with me.
Absolutely. But I mean, sometimes, not sometimes, but I mean, I'm a believer that, you know, lead by example as well. You know, they see us sort of working, doing things, but then family time, doing things together, you know, let them have the time that they want to have time, you know, and try and guide them as like, as a parent should, you know, and let them make little mistakes, but then give my opinion or your opinion and what, you know, and they won't listen to us quite a lot of the time, and then they'll come back and go, I should have listened to you, you know, but I think that's...
Right now, they always listen.
Yeah.
At 15 and 13, they always listen.
I agree. I mean...
I was talking... Sorry, I was going to interrupt you there. Terribly. Right. I was talking to Tide because yesterday I did an extra step out than Pete because Tide wanted to do 2 yesterday, 2 like full sessions of them. So I went back, didn't I, and did it because Pete had been working like mercilessly in the garden like for days.
Just call me Percy Thrower.
Yeah. And so basically I went in and we were chatting and I said to him, we were talking about drugs and emotions and young people, and he was saying that he's really proud of his friend Alex because Alex has started to get really motivated, and he's saying that he keeps saying to me, you're doing really well, Alex, it's really good to see your rising. And I'm listening and I'm thinking, man, at 15 years old, he's that voice, you know, he's cool, he's got a great personality, he's really funny, he's really bright, he's really beautiful, he's really intelligent, he's just gorgeous in every single way, but more than anything, he's just so kind and compassionate. And my other son is as well, but he's the example at the moment because that's the kid who's talking to me about it. And he's going on, I'm just like, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh God, I am so proud of your being. I'm so proud of your being. And nobody is ever going to tell me that you're anything but amazing. And you'll find your way whether you make it as a doctor or don't make it as a doctor. And I just said to him, do you think you'll ever take drugs, Tide? I said, you know, do you ever think about that? And he was like, nah. He said, I genuinely don't think I'm really into that one. We said, I'd never smoked weed because of my asthma. He said, but at the end of the day, I really think that when it comes down to drugs today, you can't really be sure and can't really be safe. And he said, I do feel happy in my life. And I said, well, you know I'm here and always talk to me about it. You'll never be judged. Your dad will never judge you either. But remember that if you drop an E, what you thought was happy will alter forever. Happiness will be this new sense of joy. And with that normal feeling of being sad, it's way lower on the chart all of a sudden. Yeah. That to me is one of the things that I think people should have that honest conversation with people. Because you don't realise how it alters your understanding of emotional reflex. Because
you're living in this middle bit, you see, and being able to change the balance of dopamine, serotonin and stuff like that always has a reaction. Well, it's the yin and the yang.
Just not even that though. You know. Think about it in a much more simple place. If all I've ever known is this is hot, and then somebody says, no, this isn't, it's scalding, then the freezing feels far colder. Yeah. Because you've got a scale that's bigger.
See, that's why you get a lot of, the mental health issues and stuff like that. Because
I'm not anti-drugs at all. It's, as you know, absolutely regulate, and make sure it was safe. And that's what I'd like. We were talking about that. Because I was saying then at least I'd know if you wanted to try to drop an E or take an acid or whatever.
Well, then it's out there. Then there's more people talking about it. There's more regulation.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't have to worry about it.
It's not on the bloody black market. There's no dark web stuff going on. There's no, it's just the taxing, the money, the gangs, the violence, the prostitution, the bloody everything, that's another insane. One. Brothels should be legalised, really, as well. You know what I mean? And kept that safe. That's a whole different podcast.
You are allowed like places like brothels.
But I mean, it needs to be,
as long as they're not on the streets, you're allowed it. People are allowed massage parlours with extras. It's known fact. It's not an issue. It's better than curb crawling. I agree.
Yeah.
It's a strange one, though, isn't it?
Safe.
There's so many things at the moment that I feel are really weird. Like, I've had loads of text messages from friends, parents of kids who are friends, and I've had things online, and everybody's so sad about the GCSEs at the moment. And honestly, right, I just wondered what was going on, because I've got Tide, who's now 15, is going into his GCSE final year next year. So obviously I'm a little bit interested. I'm not massively interested, because I don't really want to increase my anxiety or anything, because of course Tide wants to be a bloody doctor, so he can't just go and get a job doing things where you can get C's. He has to go straight for the bloody A ones. And we were like kind of talking to different people about this, and all their kids are just coming out devastated. I spoke to my sister the other day. I am not joking you, right? It's mental. The education system is so mental. It's absolutely insane. No kid from a normal environment or an environment with less than is going to thrive in that system. It's like based on whether you can remember everything. It's insane. I would fail everything.
Yeah.
I would be absolutely rubbish.
Unless you could draw everything, then I'd probably fail everything as well.
I'd definitely fail everything if we're drawing. Like
I was all right at like
5-year-old with webbed hands.
I thought I was pretty good at creative writing, stories and stuff.
You've got a great imagination, kid.
I reckon I could come up with some good stuff now.
Yeah, you've got a good imagination for exaggeration.
Oh.
So you'd be a great creative writer.
Absolutely, I was. I mean, I actually, in third year junior, which is year whatever it is, they make up now, you know what I mean? Third year junior, I wrote a short book. I wrote a small book. I still have it somewhere.
I saw it.
You've seen it.
Your mum showed it
illustrations
me.
And everything, and it was the space journey or something. And I just made it up as I went along, and it was brilliant. I had names of alien animals, like the Schnapgrobblet and the Flangbangle and the Humblong, and like even just noises, the flink and the birdie, you know what I mean? And I had a dog that disappeared, like a quarter of the way in the book, it disappeared. And I thought, shit, I better bring the space dog back. And like, as near the end, I was like, and then all of a sudden, my space dog appeared. I go, where have you been, you little bastard? You know what I mean? Can't believe he turned up again, But I obviously the continuity of the story had to be there. People would be like, where's his space dog gone? But yeah, I wrote a book. Yeah,
I love that. I was never that judicious in my studies at all.
Oh man, I was like, I just wanted to I designed space vehicles, but like actually did the full blueprints of them.
I remember getting once when I was wouldn't have been the very first, probably the third year of infants. So like, when you're going before junior 1, but Mrs. Cantor, she was just like the nicest teacher.
Third year infants, first, second, third year infant, first, second, third, fourth year junior.
That's right.
Then first, second, third, fourth, fifth senior.
Yeah, so
who made the bloody,
I was in the third year
55,
infant. Yes, I've been there a couple of years. And it was recorder playing and all of that. And Mrs. Cantor used to bring like sweets every single Friday. We would be given sweets, and it was only like a chocolate lime or something, but it was so big. And then one day I'd done this particular bit of writing. My writing was terrible, but I was quite good with my imagination. And it was for the school magazine, and I got chosen for the school magazine. She had to rewrite it for me in her writing because they couldn't tell it, but she could tell it because she was used to me. And I'm heavily dyslexic, and as a child that was very, very evident in my writing. But she did it for me, and it got in the school magazine. And then one day she came in and she was like, Emma, Janet, and there was a girl in my class called Janet, and we kind of were like, yeah. And she was like, the headmistress would like to see you. Oh. And like, I knew it wasn't going to be bad because obviously I hadn't done anything bad, but I didn't know why I was going. And I got there and she said, hand me your book. Miss Cullen, she was called. She's a lovely woman. And she stamped the school stamp in it and signed it, and it was like the highest level of achievement.
Was that like a Britain's Got Talent straight through the final
thing? Amazing. And you know what? It's so amazing because there's that at my primary school. There's lots of things that kind of stick with me with my education. But I was mercilessly bullied in junior 2 by a teacher. When I say mercilessly bullied, I mean he destroyed me at every opportunity, and it got so bad that my mum came in and basically...
That's a young age to be
It was...
terrorised.
I can't tell you how awful it was.
Teacher as well.
He was absolutely horrible. There was nothing. And I got from being not a confident child, because as you know, I suffered from tics and really difficult kind of stress and anxiety. And I was in his year, and it would be the way I sat, it would be the way I moved my hair, it would be the way I ticked, it would be my sound of my voice, it would be my writing wasn't fast enough, and it was everything. And it got to the point where
I was booting him around the playground.
I couldn't eat at all. My mum and dad were really worried about me, so my mum wrote into school and said, Emma needs to come home in the dinner hour just to give me a break. And they refused it. He refused it. He wouldn't allow it to happen, even though it could have happened. And
Sounds like a very odd man.
in the end, my mum went in, Mr. Pritchard. In the end, my mum went in and she absolutely floored him.
So
and
if
said,
you're listening, Mr. Pritchard, I hope you've got.
well, this is
trench
the
foot.
really weird thing, right? So then that was like about 7 or 8 months. I'd been mercilessly bullied by him. It was awful. I lost all my confidence. And then like after my mum did that, he started to try to be nice to me. So like it started to feel a little bit easier. And then at the end of the year, there was a merit certificate that each year the best merit certificate went out. And I can remember sitting in assembly and every time this merit award was announced, he would turn around and smile at me. And I was like, oh, Mr. Pritchard's smiling at me. And I won. And he put me forward for it and I won it. And it's really weird because even though that was probably just down to the fact that he wanted to make amends publicly with me, for a child, it made everything okay.
Yeah.
I felt like he didn't hate me anymore and I felt like I wasn't a bad kid anymore. And that genuine moment was utter forgiveness for me.
Yeah.
And it's so strange how those moments
No, not
influence
for
your
me.
life. No, you still batter him.
Yeah.
Mr. Pritchard,
Mr. Pritchard,
I'm going to
come
find
for
you.
Yeah.
I've got a certain set of skills.
Yeah. And I will.
I've got a protractor.
Yeah.
I've got a pencil sharpener.
And I've got a syringe full of syphilis. It's a bit weird.
And on that note, we'll say goodbye. Thanks for joining us. Join us next week for another Making Sense